listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. It's Ben Worthington here, and we're going to look at line chart descriptions for Academic Task 1. This tutorial will include 20 dynamic verbs with adverbs, 10 different transitional devices. We're going to look at comparisons, and I'm going to give you a little bit of advice as to how you can improve your graph description skills at the end. Two things. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining us. You joined the first and original podcast all about IELTS that I started about 12, 13 years ago because I was struggling. I was struggling with the IELTS exam. You know, I decided to become a teacher. I was living abroad and I was teaching English, students, little nippers, adult learners. I was teaching the whole gamut of the whole range of different students, and the ones I liked the most were the IELTS students for two reasons. They were motivated, they were going places, they were ambitious, and then secondly, the results mattered. The results were important. The results could be measured. And it's not like a student who just wants to maintain the level, which is just boring at the end of the day. These students are going places, you know, and you can test what you teach, if it works, if it doesn't work. You know, you've got that feedback. You got the feedback loop. You're teaching them, they get band 7, boom, you're on the right track. You're teaching them and they're still struggling with IELTS writing task. You're not on the right track. So I was struggling teaching at first. And it was so embarrassing the first time. We were trying to work through a task 2 essay. And the student she looked up at me confused because I gave her an essay plan and it's contradicting itself. We were repeating ourselves. We were going around in circles, you know, and I was like, what does the exam want? What does the examiner want here? What's the purpose? And that's what led me to create IELTS Podcast, because I started asking other tutors. I was desperate. Then I was like, actually, you know what? These interviews, these conversations, they should be recorded because they can help other students and other tutors as well. So we released them. It was a massive success, still growing, still getting success. And what I did is, if what they taught me was successful, I tested it out with my students, and if it was successful, then it went into the online course. If it wasn't, I just threw it out. And that's why we have so much success at the moment. And this is what led me to eventually started teaching with tools rather than information. Because if you're using tools, then it's just faster, it's more effective, you're more productive, you're making every minute of your preparation time count. And I'll tell you more about this later. But I think we should just jump into today's tutorial. Sorry, I got distracted there. Let's jump into it. 20 dynamic verbs and adverbs. First ones. Growing steadily. This is quite straightforward. Growing steadily. The chart shows the enrollments of foreign students in 2022 were growing steadily. You see? Falling dramatically. In contrast, 2023 saw the enrollment figures falling dramatically. Just a side note with these, you can't say things like, extremely epic, because epic is the pinnacle already, so it doesn't need that modifier. Just wanted to mention that as a side note, because some students, they overuse these, or they use it incorrectly, or they use it when it's not necessary. However, the examples I'm giving you, the 10 verbs, the 10 adverbs, they are going to help you because they are, they're natural. It's not like you're jumping into the thesaurus and forcing new variations, but use them as they are, use them appropriately, use them accurately, and you'll see they're very useful for describing a dynamic line chart. Moving on, consistently improving. The University of London, however, witnessed a consistently improving trend. That one's a useful sentence because sometimes we can struggle with finding the subject here, and like who, especially with witnessed. But witnessed here we could interchange with like experienced. The University of London, however, experienced a consistently improving trend. Rapidly increasing. The number of EU students was rapidly increasing. Gradually declining. Non-EU enrollments were gradually declining. Again, to succeed with IELTS Writing Task 1, Academic, a good control of your tenses is necessary. You need to have a quick overview, find out which is the most appropriate. Also, just a side note, read the labels on the chart. I cannot tell you, when I was correcting essays, how many students messed up. They tripped up, and it was heartbreaking because in reality, this has nothing to do with the language. Reading the labels on a graph chart, I mean, fair enough, you could say it's comprehension, but it was this absent-mindedness that made them fail the exam. It made them get stuck at 6.5. The reason was because they were moving too fast and they didn't see that that the second chart was actually a prediction for 2030, and they needed the future tense for the entire description of that chart. They missed that completely, and they just went on autopilot, and they wrote it all in the present tense and failed spectacularly. And it's a shame because it was actually written perfectly, but they'd just chosen the wrong tense, the wrong time frame. And it's heartbreaking because you see it's like, this student has amazing language skills. It's grammatically perfect. They just messed up with the wrong tense or the wrong, they got the countries mixed up. And as I said, it's heartbreaking because some people might argue like, hang on a second, this is a language exam. I get the wrong time frame, and this isn't really much to do with my language exam. Maybe they have a point, maybe they don't, but our purpose here is just to pass this test and get you to the University of London, Huddersfield University, Manchester, Toronto, whichever. It's your call, it's your future. And this is the obstacle you're facing, so we can grumble about, it's not a language exam, or we can just get his head down, get moving, preparing, give them what they want, move on, and change our lives. And that's the main goal here. Moving on. Slightly fluctuating. This is a good one. This is fluctuating is one of those verbs you definitely need to use. It's incredibly useful. It's higher level, and it just means like changing up and down, more or less. But it's a more advanced, sophisticated, academic way of describing this change. It's far superior to saying the chart went up and down. That's basic level. But if you say it slightly fluctuated throughout the time period, we're on to a winner. Sharply rising. Art courses, on the other hand, had enrollment figures sharply rising. Not too bad. Plummeting quickly. I'm not so keen on this one because plummeting is, you don't really need that modifier. Plummeting quickly, because plummet is pretty straightforward, pretty dramatic already. So I think I'll modify this one before we publish it. Steadily soaring. Okay, so we'd say gradual increase there. Again, this is what I was talking about at the beginning. Soaring means going up quite rapidly. So steadily soaring is a little bit incongruent. So, these are good examples of like, we don't want to over modify sometimes. Sharply rising is fine because we can rise slowly, we can rise quickly. So sharply rising is fine, but plummeting is nearly always quickly. It's always obviously downwards, so we don't really need the quickly at the end. As with soaring, we don't really need steadily soaring, because it's soaring is going up quite quickly in itself, so steadily there is incongruent, as I said. Final one, surging unexpectedly. The influx of Australian students was surging unexpectedly. Not too bad there. That's fine. Also, just a side note here, when we're doing academic task 1, don't ever put your opinion. I was reminded by that one because it's unexpectedly. I guess if the chart was quite flat and then surged at the end, maybe you could argue unexpectedly. However, in most cases, you don't really want to introduce your opinion. You want to stay neutral. You only want to explain what you see in front of you. So if you know why the number of non-EU enrolments were gradually declining over the last 3 years, maybe because of Brexit, whatever, do not add that extra information. As I said, this is a language test. We've got to transform this chart into words. We're not getting tested about our intelligence. We're getting tested on our ability to communicate. That's it. Let's have a look at 10 transitional devices. However, furthermore, consequently, on the other hand, meanwhile, in contrast, therefore, simultaneously. I like that one. That's my favorite from the list, because now you're pretty much already comparing 2 points. I don't know. The number of Indian students and Chinese students both grew simultaneously at the same time. So we've got a little bit of grouping, we've got some comparison in there, whichever way you structure it. So we've covered quite a few criteria of the exam just by using that sentence accurately. Comparisons. So obviously in the line in academic task 1, we want to compare different data points. Some useful phrases for these are while. While the number of EU students increased, non-EU enrolments dropped. Also, I'll just mention some students feel it necessary, and maybe just out of nervousness, but feel it necessary to write down every data point there. Now, when I see an essay like that, I'm like, okay, this student doesn't know how to summarize or to group the data. And that's a key skill you need. It's on the Band 7 criteria for IELTS Academic Task 1 to summarize and to group the data by mentioning every single data point you have failed to group or summarize the data. You've just regurgitated what you see. Fair enough. There is some language skill needed, but we need to go beyond, a little bit beyond that. This is IELTS academic. You're going to university. We're also going to show the examiner that we've got some reasoning skills and critical thinking skills, and that we are prepared. This is why the unis insist on the IELTS exam, because it goes a little bit more further. It's not just the language, even though, International English Language Testing System. It goes a little bit further. This is why the unis insist on the IELTS exam, because by Band 7, you've shown some critical reasoning, you've shown some graph interpretation, and these are skills you'll need for the universities. Moving on, although this has got to be in your core grammar skills, although it's incredibly useful as well for task 2. Although Indian student numbers surged, the numbers from China remained steady. Whereas, again, this is insanely useful for comparisons for task 1 and task 2. Whereas enrolments for art courses shot up, those for engineering showed no significant change. I like that sentence because we didn't say no change, no significant change. We didn't say no big or no small change, because big and small are basic words you learn at the beginning of your English language journey. Forget them for IELTS. By now we should be using higher level vocabulary: significant, major, important, critical. Lots of different synonyms available to you, rather than the standard big, small, good, bad, so on and so forth. Despite, again, another useful comparative device, despite its fall in 2023, the enrolments rebounded the following year. On the contrary to the decreasing trend in master's programs, doctoral enrolments were on the rise. Straightforward, quite effective, useful. 5 tips to help you improve your graph, your line description skills, and then we're going to wrap it up. So as I said, don't describe every single change. Look for the overall trends, the significant data points. This is why I said in previous tutorials, a good handle on superlatives is essential. It's also, as I said before, going to enrich your speaking and Task 2 skills as well. Your speaking Part 2 and 3 skills, and your writing Task 2 skills as well. Now you must include a summary, an overview of the main trends. We said this before. Now, to do this, an effective way is just to maybe move your head away from the actual chart, get some distance there, or squint your eyes so it gets a little bit blurry. And then what leaps out, is there a sudden increase at the end of the chart? Is there a fall in the middle? Because this is just going to smooth out some of the tiny details so you can only see the big ones. Oh my word, I just used the word big. So you can only see the significant ones. By the way, with the speaking, it's more challenging, especially if it's natural English language. It's more challenging to consistently be aware to upgrade it. Obviously, some people can do it, but in natural spoken English, the bar is understandably a little bit lower. We don't have to be using overly formal words all the time. Next one, use a variety of grammatical structures and vocabularies. Okay, now how do we do this? Well, we can look at model essays. We can extract sentences. We can put sentences through the IELTS podcast essay checker. Put whole essays through there, and you'll be able to see which grammar structures you're missing, which ones you need, which ones you're failing with. And the good thing about this is that you can do it essay after essay after essay. In fact, you don't even have to write new essays. You can just find your old ones and then start putting those through the essay checker, finding out where the errors were on those ones, and then just pinpoint that error point. Maybe it's modal verbs, maybe it's comparisons, and focus on that point relentlessly. Try again, get your feedback, and keep moving forward. And for like $12 a month, you can send in as many essays as you want to. Now, just one final thing. With the essay checker, you do get free essay checks, as many as you want. However, there is a big difference. You will see there is a big difference between the free checker and the premium checker. You will see this when you use the premium checker. The essay feedback it gives you takes longer. That's because it's checking more data points and it's giving you more thorough feedback. And with more feedback, you can improve faster. Also, I found that it's a little bit more generous. I put an essay through and I got something like a band 6.5, 7, I think. Then I put it through the premium checker and it was like band 8. And I was like, wow, interesting. So if you really want the most accurate, most valuable feedback and you want it fast because you've got your exam around the corner, go to IELTSPodcast.com and you'll be able to see the free essay checker there. Sign up and you get some introductory course on how to use it and how to improve your score. Next point, formal tone. Use a formal tone in your essay. Don't let words like big and small slip into your vocabulary, because I've never done that in my life. Okay, no, use the formal tone. The beauty of this is that obviously it's less spontaneous than speaking, and you've got the chance to go back and review it, see it, correct it. If you try do this with speaking, it gets awkward. You can't take those words out once you've spoken them. They are there for eternity. They've gone. And if you do try to take them back, it often gets more confusing. So, review your writing. It's quite natural for a contraction to slip in, or even a more basic word, as we've been saying, good, bad, big, small, all of those. And now's your opportunity while you're reviewing to catch those mistakes and upgrade your language. Finally, time management. The general rule is 20 minutes on task 1, 40 minutes on task 2. That's logical. It's if we divide the minutes by the minutes by the points, this is roughly what you get. However, to be able to write it in 20 minutes, you do want to be in, you want to have this skill down before the exam. How do you do it? I worked with one tutor, actually. He's like an ex-army guy. At first I was impressed by this guy. I was like, he's ex-army, but later I was like, yeah, that's it, nothing else. Don't bring anything else to the table apart from being ex-military. So I was thinking it'd be like super organized, super processes, quite disciplined. And to be honest, after sort of like working with him, he used to give his students 10 minutes to write the description. And I was like, what? And he's like, well, if they can write it in 10 minutes, when it comes to the exam, they'll have 20 and they'll find it far easier. I was like, yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. But if you're really serious about improving, I think it's better to do the opposite of that. Take an hour to write your first essay. Give yourself time. Get the basics under control. Go back and improve it. Refine it. And then the next time you give yourself 50 minutes. It's far less stressful and you're on the right path to improve. How are you going to improve your essay if you're only just doing 10-minute sprints? I mean, there is some value to it. Maybe you could do it once or twice, but if you're really serious about, improving your work and you've got maybe an afternoon, you've got an hour or two and you just want to focus on academic task 1, doing 6 10-minute task 1 descriptions is not going to get you the results, is not going to improve your essay writing skills as maybe doing 2 30-minute ones or 1 60-minute one. Give yourself permission. Give yourself permission, time and space to improve. It's not going to be, you're not going to jump from a 6.5 to a band 8. Give yourself permission and go easy on yourself. This is a challenge. This is difficult, but just keep your eye on the prize, as we say. Keep your eyes in the big picture, which is studying in Canada, studying in the UK, getting permanent residency in Australia, changing the storybook of your family, probably for a long time, for the next generation. And that's it. If you are still struggling and you want to improve fast, go to IELTSPodcast.com. Sign up to our newsletter. We'll be offering free topic idea book, a free topic idea book coming out soon. Helps you with lots of different topics, ideas, vocabulary, structures and grammar. We're also, we share a course with you that shows you how to improve your essays when you're using the essay checker. And lots of goodies there, lots of good stuff to help you improve. There we go again. I'm sorry, guys. I think it's because I'm tired. I'm slipping into basic vocabulary. Lots of valuable, useful tools to help you improve. Not good, they're valuable. That's it from me. Have a super day. Keep moving. You will get there in the end. Just keep your head down. Keep at it. Good luck.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.